Welcome to the Jeremiah Interdenominational Missionary Church, where Jesus is Lord. And today we have a topic that we haven't had, but in honor of the Pope, the one that passed and the one that's new, we just thought that we would try to make the church, the show today about religion, church and religion. And I have some specialists that are in here that have that can really help us. And really, it's really strange that a couple of us started in the Catholic Church and we moved around. Okay, so. And then one of us stayed with the Catholic Church. But I go to church, the Catholic Church, when I feel like I need to go during another time during the week. I will go. Okay, but yeah, and I still observe all their special holidays that they have. I mean, that's just ingrained in you. You know, you just can't get around that.
Ingrained.
You really can't.
Excuse me.
So I want them to introduce themselves. Today, my special guest co-host is
Miss Micah Chevalier.
Okay, and you know her, and so you can
Yeah.
introduce yourself, and we're going to move to.
My name is Judy Leek Bowers.
My name is Audrey Leek Coates.
Okay, now we've been trying to get Aunt Audrey. That's what we call her. That's why I wanted her to go last.
Or Gigi for short.
Okay, we were trying to get her since before. Was it before Micah came on? You got somebody else to come on too.
Yep.
Because she
For
is the
years.
family advocate.
Yes.
She, you know, the family is so special. They do everything. I mean, from the West Coast to the East Coast, okay? But we always talk about Aunt Judy. Aunt Judy used to come in here and sit and watch when she would make sure that people got in contact with me that would be on the show. So me and Michael used to always say, they probably think we telling a story because they never seen her before. And we were talking about you for years, okay? So we're so glad. It's an honor for us to actually show the people that there really is a Aunt Judy.
Aunt Judy and Aunt Audrey.
Aunt Audrey.
That's okay, we're twins.
No. Aunt Audrey. We were trying to get Judy on the show forever. So that's where this is going today. But Aunt Audrey, all the time, we talk about, it's a wonder that your ears didn't itch or your nose didn't itch or something.
They probably did.
You know, but we want people to know that you are a real person. And we talked about you because we thought you were coming on a couple of times, right? And we talked about you too, but she's the advocate.
She's the reason why I got here.
Yes,
Yep.
that is the truth. And so with that, we just want to pay tribute. And I want each of you to say special prayers out for the two ladies that got killed by the trees in the District of Columbia that fell on their cars, for them and for their families. Also, you know, we really want to congratulate the new Pope, you know, because he is an American Pope. So we want to, you know, give him congratulations again because it's an honor for us to have an American Pope. I mean, in my lifetime, it's an honor, okay? And it was a police officer, I think, that got killed as well. And I want to send prayers out to their family as well. So, you know, we send our prayers out to all of you and to our viewership. We send out prayers to you every day because we know there's a hardship for all of those that have lost their jobs across this country, no matter what industry you worked in. We pray for you, okay? And we pray that things turn around and, you know, everything is okay and you're able to find another job someplace else as well. So our prayers go out to everyone and to all of the families that are here as well. Because we're living in a strange and difficult time. But you know what, it was written, okay? So, I mean, I just never thought that I would see it in my lifetime, you know, some of the things that are actually transpiring that are really, really, really serious, okay? So today we wanted just to, you know, dedicate, this is an interdenominational church. So we can talk about all religions. So, you know, today we want to talk about all religions, okay? So with that, I do want you to introduce Aunt Audrey and Aunt Judy.
All right. So,
And first of all, she said they're twins, so I think we need to tell folks that they're twins, okay?
they're spiritual twins.
There we go.
Spiritual twins, yeah.
Well, first off, Aunt Audrey is not only the matriarch of the family, but she is also my godmother and has been very, very instrumental in my life from beginning till now and beyond. She doesn't really talk about it, but she was also and is still up here, also a musician. She graduated from Boston University and was a percussionist. And then she also taught Shepherd Elementary School. She taught music. You didn't think I remembered that, did you?
And DC Youth Orchestra.
And DC, yeah.
I remember Shepherd. I don't remember DC Wilkerson. Where was that?
DC Youth Orchestra. Youth
Okay. DC Youth Orchestra. Yeah, I know.
And
At the time, it was based at Coolidge High School.
yeah, it was,
I know.
it was pretty much always based at Coolidge. I think since I
It's not there anymore,
it's
but
not
it
there.
was. Yeah.
And the
so 'cause
director.
Aunt Judy's kids went there too.
Yeah, and I live right up the street from there.
Oh, really?
I went there for 1 week,
Oh,
and
wow.
then I went to in my high school. I went there for 1 whole week.
Okay.
I went there the week that they took pictures, right? And I went back to Catholic school, and you know, I had in my mind I wanted to go back. So I told my mother I wanted to go back, right? So she sent me back. But one day somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, you graduated from Coolidge High School?" No, I did not.
But you're in the picture.
But you in the yearbook.
Oh, you're in the year.
I said, "Oh, okay." They had me in the yearbook as a senior. Yeah. I said,
wow.
"Okay, I graduated from Sacred Heart Academy." Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, so
that's right there on 16th Street, little house.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
had the elementary school next door, but the high school was a little house that's set up on there on Park
Paula.
Road.
We went to
They went
Sacred
to
Heart
Sacred
I went to
Grade
Sacred
School.
Heart.
You went to Sacred
They
Heart
went to
too?
Sacred
Yeah.
Heart,
You went to
yes.
grade school.
I was at the grade school. She was at the high school.
I was in high school too.
I was at the grade school.
And
Didn't you go to the high school? Oh, you went to Academy of Our Lady.
Let me speak for myself.
And
I went to AOL.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
but I like Sacred Heart
Raised in
Academy. I went
Catholic
to the high
school.
school. What did I
Yeah.
say?
Raised in, and that was
You started
our
a war
church.
here. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay.
And that was our church. So
Okay.
Aunt Judy got married there.
I did.
I was in the wedding. I was the
Flower
junior.
girl.
No, I was the
Flower
junior,
girl.
Junior
bridesmaid.
bridesmaid. Sorry.
Oh,
Junior bridesmaid.
That's right.
And gosh, I mean, we just have such a history at Sacred Heart. But we were all. My grandmother was a very devout Catholic,
Yeah.
And grandfather.
yeah, and my grandfather. And people would walk into my grandparents' house. Be like, why is there a picture of the cardinal up on the wall? Like, why? That's because that's how it was like an everyday thing. It was normal for us. And Audrey has taken the helm in that role and has become, she and Aunt Judy through the years have both been, I consider, spiritual guides for me. I've traveled, I've done all kinds of things, and both of their perspectives on religion have been very valuable to me. So,
But they're very, I mean, you can know that God has touched your life to touch other people's lives. The first time I met you, you know what I mean? When I met you in CVS.
I know.
I know. She told me that.
That's
That
where
you
I met
met at CVS.
was
Years
working
ago.
part-time. Years
Years
part-time I was working at CVS.
Yeah,
I love it.
years ago.
And
We were
I
both
mean, we
working
became the
part-time.
best of friends, you know, just by her coming into the store. And she would tell me about this person and that person, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, okay, because I told her that I had I came here. And so she said, that's how long I've been here. And she said, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get in touch because I want if she can so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. I said, well, of course, okay.
And you were one of the so-and-sos.
I know.
Yes. Yes. And you're just a special person. I mean, I just want to
Thank
say
you.
that. And, you know, she keeps me on track too, you know, so.
She does that.
But it's a good kind, you know. So, but I'm glad she talks about you all the time, okay? And so, you know, I'm glad that you're here so people can see that you're a real person as well.
Right,
okay?
exactly.
So, thank you, ladies, for coming today.
Thanks for having us.
you
And
know.
a little bit about Aunt Judy.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably the one that I take after the most. She's an artist. She went to Howard University, Performing Arts, and she's also an educator. She teaches, and says, an educator whose life has been guided by faith, family, and creativity. That's the honest truth. And we mentioned, everybody being raised in D.C. and in Catholic schools. That's how it was in our family.
Well, I guess that's how it was in a lot of our families at that time. But the Baptist persuasion is another deep-rooted place.
Yeah.
Now, Methodists you would hear about, okay, but between the Catholics and the Baptists, most of the time in the families, they would either be Catholic or Baptist. And you had some people that were Methodists, but I'm it's strange. My mother was a Baptist and my father was a Methodist, and my aunt was a Catholic, and she was the one that made sure that I grew up in the Catholic persuasion. Right. She lived right around the corner from us, and I also wanted to be a nun.
I did too.
Did you? I did.
Ooh, I never did.
Oh, I did.
She said that with conviction. I never did. I wanted to be a nun, but my parents told me that I was too young to make that decision for myself, and that they felt like I needed to live a little bit longer, and then if that's what I wanted to do, fine. But God still had a special thing for me to do because I became a minister, in the Baptist persuasion, and then I became a pastor. So he still had his way. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But the root was, and I tell anybody, you can't have it. Excuse me, folks, but this is just my own, not the station's thoughts. It's mine.
Right.
I think that you can always get a good foundation for your children if you start them in Catholic school. Now, what they do later on, I think the foundation is great because they make sure that you do get educated and there's no foolishness and, you're there. Not the foolishness that you hear about, in places that other people have.
I
You
agree.
just didn't have
I
that.
agree.
One of the things that I noticed about growing up in Catholic school, in the Catholic school system, was discipline.
That's what I mean.
And in order to do the things that I knew I wanted to do, the arts are all about discipline. And that kind of went hand in hand with that, the dancing, the singing, all of that requires focus and discipline. And that's what the Catholic school was about.
And I
Really?
did ballet and tap. I did tap dancing, because that was just something I wanted to do, right? And so I don't know whether that, from whence I came, whether that had something to do with it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like you said. I mean, they're very focused on the arts as well. So let's talk about these ladies. And so we can hear about them, and they can tell us.
So one of the things that I distinctly remember about Aunt Judy was the fact that after she graduated Howard, she went to New York. And she wasn't just in New York. She was performing. She did Pearly with Robert Guillaume and Melba Moore, and she had a role that just kind of stood out. She always had a role that kind of stood out, even if it was a small role. Like, there are no small roles, there are only small actors or whatever. Is that the
Small-minded people?
Small-minded
I don't
people.
know.
And she was the happy girl. That was the most memorable part. One of them in that whole play was her just breaking out at church and dancing all over the place. And if you haven't seen Pearly, you should look it up.
It's a good.
It is a
movie.
wonderful, wonderful piece of work.
It was a
and play,
movie and a
yes.
play.
And I was there. I was little, but I was there. I spent, was it the summer with you? And so I got to watch them rehearse. So that was fuel for me as a kid. Like, that's what I want to do when I grow up, And so, and Pearly was also a religious-based play. So it just kind of
All came together.
all came together, bringing everything full circle.
I will say, like, for me, I went to Catholic school my whole life. I wanted to go to public school, but I wasn't allowed.
You wasn't. No,
But I will say what Tricia said, and to piggyback off of them about discipline and rigor and perseverance. You did learn that kind of thing. Also, respect was huge. I also really appreciate the repetitiveness of prayer. Even when I didn't know what I was saying, I was saying something. I remember my first experience in Louisiana with my mother. I'm sure Audrey, everybody was there. But I remember there was a storm, and it got very dark, and Mama Elizabeth,
My grandmother.
pulled out the,
Lanterns.
lanterns, and they started praying. And I had seen storms in Washington, D.C. I had never seen everybody turn off all the lights and get in a room and start praying. So as a child, my first thing was, well, are we getting ready to die? Because everybody, this is a little different. But I realized that there was such a connection to nature, because they're in the South, an appreciation for Mother Earth, and understanding that when things start blowing, and you call on God.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
You don't keep watching the TV and go, oh, the TV went out, the electric.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody stops and everybody focuses. And so that was really my first core memory of an experience with prayer. And then I started paying attention, because we would go there and then they would meet and we would do the rosary. We were doing a rosary. I remember. And it was so impactful for me
Yes.
to see people in step, in focus, and in prayer together at the same time, reciting the same thing. And as I matriculated and learned more as I got older, to me that was like the day of Pentecost all the time. And how often do we have that?
That's right.
Where we have everybody in sync, everybody doing the rosary. Audrey just talked to me about the rosary the other day. But that was just so impactful. And it's something that young children don't always have access to.
That's right.
And so we grew up that way with a mother who prayed. We prayed at night, we prayed in the morning, we prayed in the car.
That came from the grandmother, though.
You
That
see
came
what I'm
from the
saying?
great grandmother, because that's where mine came
Right.
from. And it just went on, you know what I mean?
Right.
So just like you, I don't know, it probably was the same storm that we all went down to my mother's basement, because we were all there for something.
prayed.
And we prayed.
Absolutely.
We did. We went down in the basement and prayed. Even though we were different denominations,
Right.
that's why I understood that, in fact, I got involved with the Interfaith Council when they did a march on Washington, when Sharon Pratt Kelly was in, I was the director for the Interfaith Conference. And I didn't realize, even though going to Catholic school, I mean, being in the, religion atmosphere all the time, I did not realize that there were so many different religions.
Right.
Until I got involved with the Interfaith Council.
Right.
And that was an experience for me that taught me something else, that even though we might have a different religion, we might call him something different, but we're still talking about the same spiritual being, okay? And that's what I got, and it was such an impactful for me to understand as an adult, well, not an old adult, but a young adult,
Right.
that we have, Catholic faith tells you one thing, Baptist faith tells you something else. But when you get in a room with all these chic, boozlers,
Right.
all these people in the room, and you're having a conversation, and you say there is no difference.
Right.
It's one supreme being, because we all understand that
Right.
there's one supreme being,
Right.
but we call him something different. but we all know that he is the spiritual God in our lives, okay? And that is what made me say, well, didn't the Lord laid on my heart to have an interdenominational church, you know, so that all people are welcome, you know, because that's what God wants us to do. All people should come into his table
Together.
and give him praise together, you know, and that's what.
Nonpartisan.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes. And so it probably was the same story.
It was. My mother and father were very permissive.
Yeah.
After the seeds were planted in Louisiana and at home, my next door neighbors was Carolyn Winton. Her father was a minister at St. Stephen's on 16th Street. And my best friend, she went to a Unitarian church at 16th and Harvard. And so Carolyn and Trisha and I would get up in the morning. We were young. And we would go to all three churches. And my mother and father allowed me that opportunity. And the only thing my father said to me was chew the meat, spit out the bone. Wherever you go, chew the meat, spit out the bone. You're gonna hear different things. But you know, hone in, you know? And so we would get up in the morning, little girls. We would walk down 16th to St. Stephen's, and then we walk past Sacred Heart to 16th and Harvard to the Unitarian Church, because you know they had they had Sunday school, and I had never been to that either, right? And then all three of us would go last to Sacred Heart, and we stayed there, and then we walked back home. That was our Sunday.
Yeah, and so I remember the church because it was across the street from the basketball court. Where
That's
the school
right.
Was, okay.
That's right.
Right there in that little area. So I mean, our lives are so much alike. Maybe that's why, because you know, me going to Sacred Heart and then me trying to be inquisitive about other religions, because, like I said, my grandmother was Baptist, and my mother was Baptist, and my father was Methodist. It just. I went to those. I did the same thing,
Right.
you know, the kind of thing. But I would still go back to, it came from that Catholic background,
Right.
okay? Because I mean, one thing I think that the Lord made me inquisitive enough at a young age to find my
Right.
way, you know, on which direction that I was supposed to go, and I wasn't influenced by anyone else but Him, you know, and.
And no matter which way you went,
Yes.
you still believed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like piggyback off what you said, what your parent told you, listen, but make sure that you're really listening.
Right.
Okay, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
Make sure that you, because He said, my sheep will know my voice.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
and so no matter where you go, if you truly are a believer, you know what to. You know what to
Hold on to.
you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And so, God, the Spirit of God is real, and we need to. This country needs to get on board. Okay.
On one accord.
We need to pray. Just like I said, you know, if you believe it doesn't matter the denomination.
No.
But if you're a believer, then we all need to come together and believe together and ask for this world to come on one accord, okay? Because if you've ever read the Bible, there's some scriptures in there that are very, very in tune of what's going on right now today.
Right.
And I thought that I would never, and I used to pray that I hope that I never was around when those things would happen,
But you
know.
are.
Yeah.
And because of the father against, you know, children against parents, and parents against the children, and you know, enemies in high places. I'm just laying it out there so people understand, you know. But enemy in high places, wickedness.
Speaks
it says
very
it-
clearly.
it tells
Because
you
we don't
it's-
wrestle against flesh and blood.
we don't wrestle
Right.
against flesh and blood. I mean, it's just so obvious that the things that we're going through right now is that it's a time that I don't care what denomination that you are, that we all need to come together. We all need to pray. We all need to, you know, they have marches all over this country.
Right.
And the only person that's really showing them is Rachel Maddow, okay? They're showing you all the different, every day they're marching in this country
Right.
someplace. But you would never know it if you watch the news.
Right.
because they're not showing it.
Nope.
But there are people that are coming together in masses. I mean, she showed a march that they had in New York, had thousands of people that was out there, you know, saying they save Medicare, save Medicaid, Social Security, the veterans, you name it, people that lost their jobs, you know. It's so many different things that we can come together on. I don't care, pick either one.
Right.
But pick one,
Right.
okay, that you want to stand up for
Yeah.
peacefully, okay? Pick one. We can all come together on one accord and pray. You know, prayer is everything, you know.
Prayer. And the other thing is, there will be no peace.
Mm-hmm.
Your hope is limited
Mm-hmm.
and at risk
Mm-hmm.
if you're not praying
Mm-hmm.
for yourselves,
Mm-hmm. And others.
for others, all others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about pray for this particular person.
No, I know.
Pray for this particular race. All of us are children of God.
Mm-hmm.
And until all of us realize that
Mm-hmm.
and focus on that
Mm-hmm.
and forgive and ask for forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and tell the truth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And
We'll set you
some
free.
people need to look up the word truth to find out what it really means.
What that
Right,
means.
right.
The
Yes.
truth will set you free.
That's what
Yes.
it says. It will set you free.
And
I-
God is a patient God.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I also wanted to congratulate the young guy that got out of jail and was able to graduate the other day. That was who the other person was. And he was actually to get his degree.
Nice.
Okay, and they
Nice.
let him out, and he's free. And not the one that's still away in jail, he's still there. We need to still pray for his family. But the one that was supposed to graduate, they took him off the street. Well,
Yeah.
they
Wonderful.
did let him go, they let him loose, and he did great. So I say congratulations to you, and my hat's off to you, you know, that you were able to finish your degree, because I think that he was working on his doctorate degree. And it would have been sad. I might have it wrong, but it would have been sad for any degree that he had gone
Right.
that far. He was just steps away from
Right.
graduating
I hope
and not to have been able to have done that. And so I say, I thank God is a good God, because people were praying for him.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
that goes back to what you said. Doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
Prayer is everything. You know,
It is.
so if we all get on one accord with prayer, we can help folk. You know, and help ourselves. You know, because we are very. We in very, the times that we in are very, very, very,
Strange.
okay. I didn't know which one to pull out that
Yeah.
rabbit, out that hat,
First
but
thing
where
came
we
to
are.
mind.
But I want to thank you, and I want to say this too, while we're on the air. Aunt Audrey is something else. She went to the shrine yesterday because she knew that we were going to talk about church, and she knew that we were here, and all of us do have a Catholic background, right? She went to the shrine yesterday, and she brought us back some goodies. She brought me back, this is a book.
Well,
that's from my daughter.
Alice.
That's not gonna say.
Yeah.
This didn't come from the shrine. This is her daughter's book, Allison, that she wrote. It's called The Goddess Potential. Okay, now see how I tell you she always is advocating for family?
Right.
Okay, this is one of those things. This is her daughter's book, okay? And if you want more information about it, you can, reach out to Audrey on her email, because the email is in the credits, okay? And ask her how you can get this book, okay? Also, she gave us, oh my goodness, she gave us so many things.
yes.
Well, let me tell you one more.
You go ahead and tell us
one more
about
thing
the book.
about the book.
Go ahead.
Well, if you look on the back, it's
Yeah.
a joint effort
Yes.
Okay.
between Tara Wallace and Allison Leak.
Okay.
They did it together.
Okay.